Welcome to Fantasy or Reality, the GPP. Whatever road you took to get here doesn't matter. What matters is you're here. And my hope is that we all can help one another in this journey.
Welcome back to Fantasy or Reality, the GPP with Stevie D. Hello, everyone. How are you tonight, this evening, this morning, wherever you're listening to this podcast and whenever you're listening to it? Who knows when you're listening to it, because it could be any day, any time. Who knows? But welcome. It is Tuesday, August 2nd, fairly late evening. Crazy long day at work, 15 and a half hours, but here I am. Yes, so how have you all been doing? Lovely? Oh, that's lovely. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you for letting me know. Oh, you had a hard day? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Me too. Well, let's sit back and let's listen to some ramblings from your friend Stevie D over here. So I shall just jump right into it. I was listening to a podcast recently called the After Gambling Podcast. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't that one. It was All in the Addicted Gamblers Podcast. Sorry for confusing my podcast and for a horrible accent. I don't know where it came from. So All in the Addicted Gamblers Podcast. Brian, who is the host of that show, and several other people that I know went to the National Council on Problem Gambling. And that happened a few weeks ago in July. And he spoke of something that happened there that piqued my interest. And also, I just, for the life of me, can't understand. Maybe just because I am still fairly new into this. It's been 15 months today for me. And I understand that a lot of the funding comes from the operators or whatnot, and I don't really get into much of the politics and all that stuff behind it. I mean, to me, it's just about the self-improvement game and improving your life and improving your mindset, and that's what matters most. But he had mentioned that the National Council on Problem Gambling gave some type of award for their responsible gambling campaign to Draftkings, and I read an article just before this titled Draftkings Attends, Promotes, and Sponsors Conference on Responsible Gambling. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I will give you a few quotations here. It says, DraftKings thanked for their National Council on Problem Gambling for their efforts. Let's try that again because I just read that wrong. DraftKings thanked the National Council on Problem Gambling for their efforts. I'm sure they did. Gaming operator DraftKings was one of the conference's key sponsors. The operator released a video thanking National Council on Problem Gambling for its continued commitment to fighting problem gambling. DraftKings congratulated the organization on its 50th anniversary and acknowledged it as one of the prime advocates for responsible gaming. Christine Thurman, the senior director for responsible gaming at DraftKings, I love how they call it gaming and not gambling, noted that the National Council on Problem Gambling was the preeminent authority in the U.S. on advocacy, prevention, blah, blah, blah. The operator expressed continued commitment to the cause. Thurman and Hines attended the 2022 National Conference representing the operator, according to DraftKings communication manager Suzanne Trainer. The company's responsible gaming team related their newest approach to the unfamiliar challenges posed by the rapid growth of sports betting in dozens of states. She expressed gratitude to the presenters at the event and noted that DraftKings continued to promote research in safe play to expand its knowledge base. Now, does that say anything at all, or is that just more BS talk? I've been out of it for well over a year at this point, but I mean, I played DraftKings for several years, and I had tons of signs of problem gambling. And not once did anyone ever reach out. Not once was my account suspended. Not once did I get an email, anything. Uh, I would love to know what they're doing, and I would love to know why they're being awarded at a gambling conference, the National Council's conference on problem gambling. And maybe I just don't know much about it. I mean, that's very possible also, but I don't understand this one bit. What is their award for? What are they being recognized for? Because they're throwing some crumbs that they get in half a day. What is it, 1 million or 1.5 million? Sure, they don't have to do that. It's nice to have that for treatment, but I mean, I remember looking at how much they were making per day, and it was in the millions per day, just in like the 8 to 10% that they take off the top of every single contest, and God knows how much they're making now. But I don't know. I guess I'm probably biased here because I gambled on their website for a long period of time and had a lot of stuff that indicated problem gambling and never heard from anyone. I mean, yeah, I understand. I was the gambler. I was the one making these choices and decisions, but they're touting this responsible gambling campaign. If anyone knows what they're doing more than what they were doing like a year and a half ago, please let me know because I have no idea, and I can't imagine it's much. I mean, I'll just give you a few examples. There were time periods during my gambling where I was depositing multiple times a day. I would say deposit 100, 200 bucks, whatever I'd be depositing, and would submit 10, 20 lineups and then see or convince myself I needed to put more lineups in. So basically, I would deposit more and more. And say my 7 o'clock games weren't going well. I'd deposit more by 8 to try to get into that game. Then I'd deposit by 9 again. I know I've talked about this before, but I would continue to deposit multiple times in a day. Other things that would happen. I would set limits for myself because I tried many ways to stop gambling before I was caught. I can't remember if sometimes I'd set a daily limit, sometimes I'd set a monthly limit. I think I set both at one point, and I would hit it often. And all they ever did was you try to deposit, and it would still let you deposit, but you'd get a little notification saying you've reached your daily limit or you've reached your monthly limit. And it never froze the account. It never stopped the account. It just said, hey, you put this amount in, but you want to keep depositing 15 more times. You want to deposit hundreds, if not thousands more. Go right ahead. There were time periods where, let's say I won a decent amount, 5, 10 grand, whatever, like my largest amounts that I had won. And I would lose that in a short period of time, a few weeks or a month. And not once did anybody reach out. Hey, we're realizing you're losing thousands and thousands of dollars of the money you just won. We realize that you were only gambling $20 to $50 to $100 a day or whatever it was before this, and now you're gambling 10 times this amount because you have this on your account, and now you're losing and losing and losing and losing. And then once you lose it all, you're depositing more. Still then, never heard from anyone. And I'm not saying that they even have to. Sure, it could just be all on us. But the fact that they're being awarded at the national conference, the fact that they're touting this responsible gambling and gaming campaign, they're not even calling it gambling, calling it gaming. I'm sorry, I just got to call it out. I'm calling BS. If someone's got some other information that I don't have, I would love to hear it. But I don't. I mean, what are you doing? Do you have algorithms? You have the software to track problem gambling. Also, I mean, I remember at points I kept buying different gift cards. I kept uh, depositing with just different gift cards. And by the time I got caught, I think I had like 15 or 20 different gift cards on my screen that it would pop up and say, which card do you want to deposit from? You know, when my wife called me, she thought I had like 15 credit cards when really I had like two or three, and the rest were just gift cards. So if I'm constantly depositing with gift cards, if I'm constantly going over my limits, if I'm constantly winning and losing large sums of money, and all the other things I talked about, does that not indicate that I may have potentially been a problem gambler? I don't know. Uh, I'll let that be up to you. What do you think? Did you do any of these things? Did you do all of these things? If you're listening to this, you probably have done some of these things, especially if you were a sports or daily fantasy gambler. And I can't even imagine how awful it must be now with the online casinos that are attached to it. Um, with what I was doing, I had to wait for games to start. I could deposit and play a lot, but it's not like I could do spin after spin after spin on a roulette table. Um, I don't know. I guess it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, seeing that they're being touted as like these responsible gambling, gaming, you know, or whatever. This responsible gambling company and the forefront of trying to help people, but they're not. And unless something has changed in the last 15 months, which I highly doubt, but who knows? But there are so many examples of times where I exhibited the obvious signs of a problem gambler and nothing was done. I'm not even saying that they have to. That's not what I'm saying. But I never got an email. I never had my account suspended for a time period. I never was reached out to at all, not once. And shit, sorry about that. I don't know why that just came through. I don't even have an iPhone. Um, yeah. So I don't know. I just don't like that they're touting themselves as this responsible gambling guru. People at the forefront are trying to help people. You know, if they really are, then wonderful. I'd like to see what those are. I'm not going to go on their site to find out, but I don't know if it's anything even similar to what it was last year. Anyone who's newer into recovery or newer into this or gambled recently, if you can let me know if there's anything different than they were doing a year plus ago. Um, and I don't even like to come on here and talk about stuff like this or complain about stuff like this, but part of this podcast is talking about gambling and problem gambling, and I like to talk about recovery and the positive things and 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 the ups and downs of life in recovery. But this one just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. To hear that they were given an award for problem gambling initiatives that they've implemented, I don't know, man. I'm calling BS. Anything? I'll put the link to this article in the show notes if you want to read it. I don't get it. I get that the funding for help and I'm guessing funding for a lot of the conference came from them. But I don't know, man. It's like peanuts compared to what they're making on a daily and yearly basis. Or yeah, I don't know, man. Just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Sorry if I'm getting animated or annoyed by this, but I mean, it just makes me think back to when I was gambling and I was doing all those things. And I'm not saying that if they had reached out or had suspended my account that I would have stopped. It may have slowed me down a bit, but maybe would have made me rethink some things. But I'm not even saying that's the case. I'm only talking about this because from my experience, there was zero being done 15 months ago and before, because today is 15 months for me. So 15 months and before that, there was nothing. All they had was you could self-exclude yourself and you could put limits, but it didn't do a damn thing. It didn't stop you from depositing. It didn't stop you from gambling. It didn't stop you from doing anything. And I think they have somewhat of a responsibility to kind of keep track of their gamblers, especially with the way things are now, and people exhibiting signs of problem gambling, like everything I just detailed, using credit cards to deposit. They know problem gamblers. If they want to pretend like they don't, I mean, come on. I mean, like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know the statistics, but I've heard it a bunch of different times that, like, casinos and these places get like 50% or more of their income from the very small percentage of problem gamblers. So they don't want to stop problem gamblers. They want more of us. They want to create more problem gamblers. I mean, why wouldn't they want to? They can put this face on like they want to stop and help, but are they really going to take money out of their own pockets? I'm not going to go crazy anymore. That's just my 2 cents. That's what I'm thinking about this article over here. Yes, you be your own judge. You can decide on your own what you think. You can tell me if I'm being completely wrong, if I'm just being a sensitive Sally over here, if I'm being a little baby butternuts over here. I don't even know. I just find it to be bullshit. Sorry. But anyways, other than that, things are lovely. Yeah, I had a fantastic weekend. Got to see some family this past Friday, going up by Lake George. Beautiful up there. Campfires. Hanging out with some people in our neighborhood on Saturday. Retirement party for some of our neighbors, and that was real nice. And then Sunday, we got to see some friends that came up from Long Island. We spent a really great day in Saratoga, doing a lot of nice things. It's a great park. There's just a lot of nice things to do. And it was just really nice to see them. We had a great time. The kids had a great time. Life is good, even with my crazy 15 and a half hour day I had today. And a lot of things that could have been prevented that were making it more difficult. But I got through it. I'm here. I'm sharing my thoughts again with you, if you even care. But if you're still here 18 minutes in, maybe you do care, so thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I don't have too much more. I will probably, like I said, start talking about some other topics in the future, but I will always continue to talk about this and stuff like this that burns my britches, or just some positive things I've seen, or recently I just talked to a young guy who's going through a tough time. He's only a month into recovery, and he's just going through it, and talking to him really reminded me of where I was at that point. And I feel for him, and I hope his life gets better, and I'm sure it will if he continues on the path. Sounds like a really smart guy, really great future ahead of him if he keeps doing the right thing, which I think he will. But he's part of one of our groups, and it's good to hear stories from people just coming in, because as I've realized, when I first came in, I learned so much from people who had time in, and now that I've got some time in, I'm listening to guys and girls coming in early on, and a lot more sports bettors and fantasy players coming in now that I really relate with, and I learn a lot from them. I remember a lot from them, and I appreciate the new people that come in that are so open and willing to share some really tough and vulnerable things. That's where the power of these groups really come in, as just being as open and vulnerable and honest as possible. And it kind of helps you, or at least it helps me, think critically about my actions, my behaviors, and my day-to-day life. And as much as I put hard work in with all the things I've talked about that I do, I learn so much from every new person that comes in. So anyways, I know I say this all the time, but if you feel comfortable enough coming on and sharing your story, please do. If you have thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, if you think what I said in this podcast was a bunch of bullshit, you can let me know. If you agree with me, you can let me know. And if you don't, I just appreciate you listening. And I shall return. Thank you very much. You all be good to yourselves and each other. Bye.
Here's where to get help. You can call or text 1-800-522-4700. That's the National Council on Problem Gambling. Or you could call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. This is where I found the link to my therapist through my local counselor. And then also, we cannot forget our affected others. My wife goes to Gam-Anon every week, and it's been a huge help to her. So anyone in your life who you feel like needs help or you've affected through your gambling, you can go to gamanon.org, GAM-ANON.org. The number is 718-352-1671.